Good morning, students. So we were studying about group 15 elements in P block elements chapter, and then we have completed the preparation of dinitrogen, preparation of ammonia, preparation of nitric acid, preparation of allotropes of phosphorus, preparation of phosphine gas, preparation of PCl3. All that we have seen. We have seen the preparation and the structures of oxo acids of phosphorus, oxo acids of nitrogen. Now we have to study about group 16 elements. Okay, so in class 12 we have to study from group 15 to group 18. So group 15 we have done already. We will be starting group 16 now. In group 16, the elements which are there are oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium and polonium. Now, the common properties of the elements in a periodic table with context to variation in the electronegativity, variation in the ionization energy, variation in the acidic property, variation in the atomic radius, all that we have done in the two general discussions about the chapter. When this chapter was started, two general discussions were done. There were two classes based on the general discussions on general properties, like how the ionization energy, how the electron affinity, how the metallic property, how the acidic property varies down the group, across the period, and of the representative elements. So that part we have already done. So what we will do is, we will study about the preparation of the elements which are required to be done in our syllabus first. Then after that we will be solving a few questions based on the properties of these elements, and after we have studied the preparation of a certain compounds, properties will also become clear, because the concept of reactions will become known to us. Example, like if I ask you the properties of oxygen, it is not required to be studied all together, because you know that oxygen combines with any metal and non-metal to form oxides. You have to just know how to write the correct chemical formula, and you can combine the oxide with the metal and non-metal to form the oxides. So the property part you can do it using your previous knowledge of chemistry, and that drill also we will do in the form of question answers. Alright, because we have, unless we do the question answers, our learning of P block elements will not be complete. So I have given you a set of questions, so solve those also. And regarding the properties of these elements, we will be having a separate session. Right now we are only studying about the preparation of the elements and their allotropes and the compounds of those representative elements, a few only. Like we have to study about the preparation of dioxygen, we have to study the preparation of dioxygen, preparation of SO2, preparation of sulfuric acid, preparation of ozone, all that. So we will see laboratory preparation of O2. O2 is also called as dioxygen. Why we are called as dioxygen? Because ozone is also there, which is written as O3. So to differentiate that, we write it as dioxygen. Okay. Now to prepare this, what we do, we take any oxygen rich salt like KClO3 and we heat it. It undergoes thermal decomposition to form KCl plus O2. This is 3, this is 2, so we can make it 6. We can make it 6, this will become 2. We can take oxide of any heavy metal like mercury oxide, and it can also undergo thermal decomposition to form Hg plus O2. Twice. We can take Ag2O, heat it, it will form 2Ag plus 2 we will give here, this will become O2 and this will become 4. We can also prepare O2 by disproportionation of hydrogen peroxide. It forms an nascent oxygen on its own if we keep it in open atmosphere, and if we make it twice, then it will become 2H2O2. We'll be giving 2H2O and O2. This kind of oxygen atom is called as nascent oxygen, and hence hydrogen peroxide is a strong oxidizing agent. Preparation of ozone is done by, I can erase this once. If O2 is treated with UV ray, then it undergoes a reversible reaction and forms 2O3. So this reaction takes place in ozonosphere. Okay, in ozonosphere, it is a layer of our atmosphere 20 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Ozonosphere is there, and there what happens, the UV rays are used up. The UV rays from the sun are used up to convert O2 to O3, and in this way the UV rays are used up. Else the UV rays can percolate into the lower atmosphere and it can be harmful to our skin. So this is not laboratory preparation. In laboratory, O2 is given silent electrical discharge. In a sealed tube, and it forms O3. You can balance it like this. Now if you have to write down the properties of oxygen, it's very easy. Take any metal and react it with oxygen, will form oxide. Take any non-metal and react it with non-metal and will form oxide. But metallic oxides will be basic and non-metallic oxides will be acidic. There are some metals which are amphoteric in nature, like lead, aluminium, zinc. Their oxides can react with both acid and base. Okay. So in properties we will be discussing about that. Now this was all about preparation of oxygen and ozone. Next preparation which we have to see is preparation of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur is abundantly available in the earth crust. Preparation of SO2, sulfur dioxide. So it is prepared from the naturally occurring forms of sulfur. Sulfur naturally occurs as monoclinic sulfur and rhombic sulfur. In solid states chapter we have seen what is the meaning of monoclinic and rhombic. They are a particular type of shape in which the axial angle and the axial lengths are different. Okay. So there are some name given to this kind of allotropes of sulfur. So one is rhombic sulfur. Rhombic sulfur is yellow in color. It is also called as alpha sulfur. And monoclinic sulfur is called as beta sulfur. This is called as beta sulfur. Rhombic sulfur is known to be more stable. Their solubility, since they are non-metallic, they form covalent solid, so they are soluble in covalent solvent like carbon disulfide and CCl4 because they are covalent solids. So why it is required to know about sulfur? Because from sulfur we are going to prepare sulfur dioxide. Now it is not that sulfur only exists as monoclinic sulfur or rhombic sulfur. Sulfur has ability to undergo catenation and it can form S2 to even S20 forms. S2 is highly unstable. The stable form of catenated ring sulfur, ring shaped sulfur are S6 and S8. How is S6 made? S6 is made like this: sulfur, 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 and sulfur. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How is S8 made? S8 is made like this: sulfur, 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 sulfur. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sulfur, sulfur, and sulfur. So in this way, S2 to S20, this meaning different types of sulfurs occurrence can be there. And SO2 is prepared just by heating any of the sulfur in presence of oxygen. It gives SO2 gas, as simple as that. Okay. Some micro level things which requires to be marked up are melting point and specific gravity of beta sulfur. Melting point and specific gravity of beta sulfur 393 Kelvin and 1.98. It has 393 Kelvin as melting point and specific gravity is 1.98. Whereas in case of alpha sulfur, that means rhombic sulfur, melting point is 385.8 Kelvin. 385.5 Kelvin is its melting point. So many melting points no one can keep in mind, alright. So definitely such kind of question does not come. 1 mark question, what is the melting point of this sulfur? That kind of question may not come. What can come is draw the structure of S6, draw the structure of S8. Which form of sulfur is most stable? Okay. Then one question comes, why S2 is unstable? Why sulfur dioxide is unstable? First, then second, which form of sulfur is paramagnetic? Okay, so why S2 is unstable? So if you will see O2 and S2, they belong to the same group. If you will take S2 and O2, oxygen and oxygen. So when oxygen forms bond, O2, it forms like this. So similarly, what we can expect for sulfur? For sulfur also we will expect like this only. One sulfur, another sulfur, and it will have 6 electrons in the outermost cell. So this we can write this side. So it can also form S2, just like it can form O2. It can form S2. So why S2 is unstable whereas O2 is stable? Why O2 is stable but S2 is unstable? So you have to just apply little bit of reasoning using the properties of the elements. We know that as we go down the group, when we go down the group, what happens? Atomic radius increases. Atomic radius increases. So if atomic radius will increase, then what will happen? The size of the covalent radius will also increase. So if size of the covalent radius will also increase, then what will happen? The bond length will become lesser. Here what is happening? Due to the lateral overlapping of the p orbital, pi bond is formed. But if these two p orbitals are far apart, then they will not be able to form effective lateral overlapping. Very strong overlapping will not be there because they are far apart from each other. Their distance is more and their distance is less. As a result, S2 bond will be weaker as compared to O2 bond. To give you a visual treat, I can make it little bigger. S2 will be weaker than O2 and it will try to break. This is first thing. Second thing is that it will have more diffused electron pairs because of its larger size, and interelectronic repulsion will also be there. Here also interelectronic repulsion is there, but then since they are closed, so the electrons are able to pair up. But since in case of S2, first thing is that the bond is weak due to long distance. Secondly, they do have interelectronic repulsion. So that is why double bond between S and S is little unstable. So it prefers to form catenated sulfur. Example, say if these are two p orbitals and if they come close to each other and this is forming one strong sigma bond, and these two thumbs are the py and py, so they can come close and they can form lateral overlapping. As a result, two covalent bonds can be formed. One is p pi and there is pp sigma. One is pp pi bonding and there is pp sigma bonding. But if the atom is very big and they are overlapping this much only overlapping of p orbital is there, and the atom is too big, then their py and py will also be far apart. They cannot come closer. But if the atom is small, then their overlapping will be strong and they can come closer. So oxygen atom is small, so their p orbitals can come closer and they can form a strong pi bond. But in case of sulfur, they are bigger atoms, so lateral overlapping is not strong. And on the top of that, interelectronic repulsion is also appreciable. As a result of which, what is happening? The bond becomes weak. So it would prefer to form bond with adjacent sulfur atoms. See, here also divalency is satisfied. Here also divalency is satisfied. Okay. So this was about preparation of SO2, O3 and O2. I will not make it bigger because I want to